Class, welcome back. We're on the second in our series on the reason handout. Today we're going to talk about reason in its use. So we have the laws of thought, and you should know them by now. And we want to see, what do we do with them? So this is a section about reasoning, how humans use reason. And we'll also see that this is where we may make mistakes. Again, I have the whole podcast series that goes in great detail on each of these. If you want more on the reason handout, it's on my YouTube channel under my name. The series is called Retrieving Reason. Okay, reason in its use. Let's talk about it. There are 4, and you can make a note card and memorize them. And I'll tell you a little bit about how I remembered them. The first one is the formative use of reason, and that's because it's used to form, and we see the word form. So the formative use of reason. Then the second one is the critical use of reason. Remember, it's the test for meaning. We talked about that in the last handout. The third one is the interpretive use of reason. Here's the word interpret. And then the fourth one is the constructive use of reason. You may want to write that down in your notes as a way of remembering formative, critical, interpretive, constructive. That's how I remember it. Now I want you to explain what that means though. So the explanation is what comes afterward. And this is going to need an explanation of an explanation. So take time to take notes. Reason is used to form concepts, judgments, and arguments, which are the forms of all thoughts. Concepts, judgments, and arguments, which are the forms of all thoughts. Now, I want to tell you about each of those. I'm going to give you more details. The details are not necessary for the exam, but you do need to know them just to know what you're talking about. So what is a concept? A concept is the first act of reason, and it's using the law of identity. A concept is where let's say the mind, I'm just going to use that term for now. The mind grasps the essential nature of a thing. So you grasp the essential nature of iPhone. When I use the word iPhone, that word applies to all the beings in the class iPhone. You know what it is. You know its essential nature. It is a smartphone made by Apple. Maybe those are the essential features. Okay, so the mind grasps the essential nature of a thing and expresses it with a word, term, or symbol. Okay? Sign language is signs that represent concepts. And concepts you can think of as ideas. And concepts are either meaningful or they may lack meaning. So the way we evaluate concepts is by meaning. All right, so let's say meaningful or not meaningful. Remember when we talked about blicks are glue? So I'll give you an example. Blick, it lacks meaning, right? There's no such thing as a blick. Or we can say iPhone, that has meaning. We defined it, right? So a concept is in the mind. The essence is in the thing. I grasp with my mind what it is, and then I want to communicate it to you. I use a word, and hopefully the word transmits the idea to your mind. That's reason. That's the first thing we do with reason. Now notice we could misidentify things. So if we're not thinking critically, we're not thinking carefully, we could misidentify and misname things. So this is where we make mistakes. So we want to slow down and take time to define our terms. And in philosophy class, we do that a lot. We'll say, you use this word justice. What is justice? Let's define that term. Let's get the essential features of justice and leave out the accidental features. Okay, concept is the first act of reason, the first formative act of reason. The next is judgment. And some people think judgments are bad. Some judgments are bad. Okay, to say judgments are bad is a judgment. So a judgment is where we have two concepts joined together by affirmation is, or separated by negation is not. So let's say that two concepts joined by is or is not. Okay, for example, the iPhone is on the table. Kino is not in the room. Isn't that crazy? He didn't want to come make a video today. All right, so how do we evaluate judgments? Humans are equal. That's a judgment. Some things look like a judgment and they're a matter of taste. Like onions are evil. That's a matter of taste. It's not something that we can prove. Judgments are the kind of thing that you can provide evidence for. So we'll say judgments are either true or false. Okay, that's the category for evaluating judgments, true or false. So I'll give you an example. And I'm not saying this is true, I'm just saying this is an example of a judgment that may be true or false. All humans are equal. Okay? Now, that's something that you may say, I don't agree with that, or prove it. So judgments, at least in philosophy, when we're making philosophical judgments, are the kinds of things we can give support for or an argument for. And that's the third category of the formative use of reason. It's argument. And an argument is where we give premises to support a conclusion. And all three of them are judgments. I'll give you an example. So let's say argument uses premises, which are judgments, to support a conclusion, which is also a judgment. Some people think arguments are bad. No, arguments are beautiful. They're the most valuable thing I can think of. I just made a video for my vlog where I provided 7 arguments. Woo! It was fun. It's on critical theory. You can check it out on my YouTube channel. So argument uses premises to support a conclusion, and you can test whether the argument is in good form, is it valid, and whether the statements are true, is it sound. So you can evaluate arguments. This is what a logic class teaches you, how to evaluate concepts, judgments, and arguments. So an argument uses premises to support a conclusion, and arguments are evaluated in terms of validity and soundness. I'll give you an example of an argument. You can test it. Socrates is a, hang on, I'm going to do it this way. It's probably not super great this way, but it makes more sense. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Yeah, I guess it's valid this way. Therefore what? You tell me, what should be the conclusion? We are going to have several arguments in this class that I present to you. You're going to have to test them. All right, think about this. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man. What's your answer for the conclusion? Socrates is mortal. So that's what an argument looks like. And now we go and look at this, the form of it. So men is called the middle term, man. That's the middle term that connects Socrates and mortal in the conclusion. So when you take a logic class, you could take the words out, put letters in, and look at the structure of it. That's validity. If the sentences are true, that gives you soundness, and that gives you a bit of knowledge. So let's look at this. All men are mortal. All men die. Socrates is a man, human. Therefore, Socrates has died. It's true. So this is a sound argument. That's what an argument looks like. And philosophy proceeds by giving arguments for judgments. And you can either accept the conclusion because reason leads you there, or you can say, I disagree with one of the premises, and you provide a counter argument. This is how philosophy goes on. And it doesn't have to be just two people in the same room. It could be over history. Like perhaps Rene Descartes is giving an argument, and perhaps Michel Foucault is disagreeing, and they're separated by, I don't know, 400 years. That's how philosophy proceeds. It could be you and me in a room discussing, or it could be over history, philosophers addressing one another. It's a conversation that has a history that is ongoing. And in that history, we can see some ideas have been presented and have not been true, and the arguments haven't been valid or sound, and they get rejected historically. And we want to know those arguments because we don't want to have those false beliefs again. So we can say there is a way of knowing true and false, and there is a way of providing arguments for our beliefs. Beliefs are judgments, by the way. Okay, all of that was the first one. I told you it was going to be deep stuff. Reason is used to form concepts, judgments, and arguments, which are the forms of all thoughts. When we think, we're using concepts, judgments, and arguments. And when we do concepts, judgments, and arguments, we're applying the law of identity. Okay, so you can see reason in its use now. Identifying, distinguishing, judging, supporting judgments. These are how we use philosophy, reason, and these are where we can go wrong. We could not grasp a concept all the way, or the word we're using doesn't match the concept. Judgments, we could make false judgments. Arguments, we could fail to provide an argument for our judgments. We just assume things. Or we could give an argument that's either invalid or not sound. So that's where careful thinking comes in, and reason is the tool for careful thinking. Critical thinking, you've heard of that, right? Okay, let's look at the second one here. Reason is used as a test for meaning. We talked about this on the last handout. Meaning is more basic than truth. Remember, meaning is logically prior to truth. Why? Because concepts come before judgments, and meaning attaches to concepts, truth attaches to judgments. Meaning is more basic than truth. If a law of reason is violated, there is no meaning, and wherever there is meaning, reason is being used, and you should celebrate, because when we have meaning, it's good. Okay, so we talked about this on the last handout. We talked about Blix or grew, a statement that was meaningless. We couldn't say whether it was true or not because we didn't know what the terms blick and grew mean. We also said Blix or non-Blix violates the law of non-contradiction, so it can't be true. So that's what we mean when reason is used as a test for meaning. We're going to say, what does that mean? All humans are equal. What does that mean? Before we say it's true. And we should learn to ask the question, what does that mean? That's going to be my favorite question in this class. Okay, third point here. Reason is used to interpret or give meaning to one's experience in light of one's basic beliefs. Okay, we also talked about this in the last handout when I drew the house. And in the house, I drew a window with you looking out. And I talked about all of our experiences coming through our epistemology, our metaphysics, and our ethics, and us interpreting our experiences in light of those basic beliefs. That's what this means. Reason is the tool that helps us to interpret all the things that we experience: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, big life events, small life events. What you're hearing right now, words are coming out of my mouth, going through the computer, getting to you somehow. Those words are really just code in a computer right now. You are making sense of those words through the filter of your world and life view. So reason is used to interpret or give meaning to your experience in light of your basic beliefs. If you change your basic beliefs, you change the meaning of your experience. This happens to us all the time. People, maybe a person is religious and then they lose their religion. Then all those experiences that they had as a religious person mean something different to them now. And it could be the other way around. Let's say you're an atheist and you convert to, I don't know, Christianity, then all those experiences as an atheist will be different. They will be interpreted differently after that experience. And we can just change our perspective. Change your perspective, change the interpretation of the experience. Okay? And reason is the tool that we do that with. And then the last piece under reason and its use. Reason is used to construct a coherent world and life view. We also talked about this in the last handout. Constructing. So I gave the analogy of a house where the ground is your epistemology. How do I know? The foundation is your metaphysics, what is real, and then you build the house, your world and life view, on the basis of those answers. And we build a world and life view, and it's more or less coherent. Coherent means the pieces fit together. So we don't want any contradictions in our system of belief. Reason is the tool that points out the contradictions. Reason is the tool that helps us move towards greater consistency and coherence. Remember, my job is to help raise your consciousness level and help you to be more consistent. Basically, I want to help you use reason better. All right, so reason is pushing us to be consistent individually and culturally and civilizationally, historically. So reason is a force in a way. It's a force that moves history. It's a force that moves individuals to greater consistency. That's reason and its use. So let's sum it up. Reason is used to form concepts, judgments, and arguments, the forms of all thought. Reason is used as a test for meaning. Meaning is more basic than truth. Reason is used to interpret your experience in light of your basic beliefs. And reason is used to construct a coherent world and life view. That's what I'm looking for on the test, what I just said. I really do want you to know this for the long term, and I really would like you to embody this. Make it your own. Memorize it, think about it, chew it over. If you have objections, send them to me in an email, let me know. If you have questions or concerns, let me know. I want to help you be a better thinker. For now, we'll pause and then we'll come back and talk about reason in us.